Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I hope you had a chance to listen to part 1 of our 2020 recap where we talked all things fishing with the coach. Today, we are doing part 2 where we're going to cover all things spearfishing with my good buddy, Bret from SpearFactor. This episode was actually on his podcast that went live a couple days ago, and we're just replaying it here. So if you already subscribed to him, you don't have to re-listen to it. But if you don't subscribe to him, you should. And if not, you can listen to it here. We're going to cover a whole bunch of things about how, some of our highlights, going down to Baja together, to Bola, to chasing tuna and only seeing them for 30 seconds after a long day to the island and burning a lot of gas money and just not getting lucky for a lot of different things, or sharing a patty and just blasting a yellowtail or two. This is super fun. Hope you guys enjoy it. I can't wait to do more spearfishing in 2021. And if you are new to spearfishing and need any kind of advice or anything like that, reach out to me. I would be happy to answer with whatever I know or point you in the right direction. Let's dive in, guys.
All right, everybody. First of all, good morning, John.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the good morning. Welcome back to the Spear Factor podcast. Today, we're kind of doing a recap. I wanted to touch base with my friend from Cast and Spear, John Stenstrom. And this year, 2020, was such an absolute crazy year. In some regards, it was a total shit show. In other regards, it was like insane fishing. And then, it was just all over the board. And when everything was closed, fishing and all that stuff, then it's like, well, let's go hiking. It's just, if you're an outdoorsman, it was almost kind of like a dream. Like for me and my family, it was just an excuse to go, okay, organized sports is gone. So I was kind of happy to go, have some time and go spend time outdoors with the kids. But anyways, I just wanted to touch base with John. We're going to go over our own little things and things that we thought were pretty significant in 2020 and kind of a recap for all of you guys. All right, so let's get started.
I guess my question for you, Bret, one second, is when did you really think that it was like, oh crap, a pandemic was coming?
Good question. That's a great... So I think, were you with us when we went to San Clemente Island? I don't remember if you were.
Was that the tuna trip where we were trying to go spearfishing for tuna?
That's right. That was later. So we went out to San Clemente Island to go for sea bass, which was kind of funny because we were like, let's just go for it. And we got out there and of course the water was freezing and just really wasn't the best move. But I wanted to take a friend of mine who never dove here before to somewhere like just magical, So we went out there, and then on the way back, I remember when I first got service, my wife called me and was like, this whole world's falling apart, like kind of like they're shutting everything down and all this stuff. And me being very, I don't want to say insensitive, just anticlimactic. I don't know. I'm just like, oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll be home in a couple hours. But I remember sitting there in the house and I was going to work. So for me, we were teaching a course. So for me, it didn't seem real because I was just going to work and doing the same thing that I always do. But I remember my wife, because she works for the government as well, she was at home, they were shut down and all this stuff. And then it became really real to me in March, like at the end of March, I guess, like everybody else, and maybe March, where I was sitting at home all of a sudden after the course and I didn't have anything to do. And I was like, let's go do this. Let's go do that. And she's like, well, we can't do any of that stuff because everything's shut down. I'm like, what do you mean everything's shut down? I was like, and then they shut the boat. You know what? I guess the best way to answer that question is when they shut the boat ramps down. And I was like, so now what are we supposed to do? Like the beaches are shut down. We can't surf. Okay. That's shitty. And then when they shut the boat ramps down, I was like, yeah, what am I supposed to do now? My wife was like, this is how all of us have been feeling since day one, jackass. And I was like, oh, okay.
I remember the boat ramps being shut down. Man, that feels like so long ago.
Well, it's like, what, 9 months ago?
Yeah, but still, it just feels like that was definitely the beginning of the saga. That's where it like really started to piss a lot of the boaters off and the fishermen. And I'm like, oh no.
Well, and little did we know, like it just, I think everybody was on board in the beginning, but nothing made sense. Like, and then we're all being jackasses and like, yeah, we're all in the same household. Like, we're just a big gay family. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, we're
5 bros in a house.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, we're living the fraternity life and I'm 40 something years old, you know? So then they shut it down and they reopened it and it was like, yeah, but it just didn't make any sense because it was like, if I wanted to go solo fishing, that's pretty much the best form of isolation you can get. And even, you know, diving, that's why we do it half the time. Yeah. So then it was like, that was shut down for a while. And it was like, well, and what I kind of noticed on all of the guys' feeds and stuff was that people were leaving the state and going on road trips and all these things like that, because now, like for me, my kids were you know, doing the online school, which has kind of been a gigantic pain in the butt, but it was just an excuse. Like we couldn't go west to the ocean, so now I guess we'll go east and we'll go like travel around. And we did that, and we actually went, there was a point, I believe, when the parks were still open, but they opened up the California state parks. And we went up there and traveled around, you know, California, drove like thousands of miles, literally like a couple thousand miles, I think. And it was incredible. We drove down the coast. We went up to the coast and checked out the coast there and all the way up by Oregon, and then drove down the coast. And it just really showed me how special our state is and its terrain and how diverse and how rural California really is once you get out of Southern California, which made it even more frustrating, where we was like, what is going on here? This state is amazing. And, you know, but we're not going to get into that stuff. But yeah, so it was great. My kids probably had the best 9 months of their lives, I hope. You know, I mean, we like to spend time together, our family, so that's good. Like, I'm not an alcoholic, so that always helps, and we're not abusive. I don't know. We had a good time. It was a good time, and not that, you know, I'm not trying to say we're better than anybody else either, but it was just nice. We really enjoyed ourselves, so it was good for the kids.
Good deal on the going into the national parks. I was fortunate enough to spend a week out in Yosemite, and that was a really nice little break from the craziness, because I think that was back in like August or so. But man, it does help a lot if you have the ability to just get like seriously in nature, not like fake nature where you're stuck in your house. Like get into like a camp, like into a tent, and you just get a hike and you get some sun and you don't see people, and you know, that's nice.
Yeah, I think that was the most incredible thing was, yeah, we went up to Mount Lassen too, and then up to the Eastern Sierras, seeing deer, and we went on hikes, and it was just like, I guess this is just like in a lot of our DNA, I think, because I think a lot of us that spearfish, before getting into spearfishing, there's quite a few guys that were, you know, hunters and just nature lovers to begin with before they discovered spearfishing. And I think it was kind of a cool little reminder of bringing us back to that. You know, like I think when the pandemic hit, it was funny. They were talking about food, and I told my wife, I'm like, we'll be fine. We will be fine. Do you want lobster tonight? We'll be fine. You know.
I think you touched on a good point though, because there wasn't many times at all during this whole thing that I felt like I couldn't go do what I needed to do to provide. And I don't think I could have said that like 4 years ago. You know, like I'm not as big of a hunter as, say, like some of these other guys. I'm trying to get more into hunting. Hunting wasn't a big thing for me, but like now knowing how to spearfish, I'm just like, this is good. Shit hits the fan. You go down to Baja, I can go in my backyard. It's nice. Like I already have a freezer that's stocked enough that's gonna last me a little bit, you know, so it's just feels good to have that sustainability piece. or self-sufficiency piece, I should say.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a sense of comfort in that, not to be reliant on anybody. I always tell the kids when they go in the ocean, and don't ever depend on a lifeguard to save you. You need to be able to save yourself, because the reality of the situation is, if you depend on someone to save you, you're putting yourself in a really, really bad situation. But yeah, speaking of the beaches, though, then they opened the beaches back up, and then it was game on. That's when, like I was saying, I guess they opened up the boat ramps too. A lot of couples, a lot of male couples went. A lot of fraternity houses went diving, and and all of that. And I think my son started surfing more than he's ever had in his life. And he never really been into it, but there was no organized sports. There was nothing. So it was like, yeah. So we started surfing together, and he got in a lot of people's way. It was a lot of fun. Took him to a local spot. Probably not the smartest move, but anyways, yeah, it was awesome. And in the process of getting him a surfboard, this is kind of a funny story. In the process of getting him a surfboard, I ran into an old friend that owns OB Surf Shop, Ocean Beach Surf Shop here in Ocean Beach. Imagine that. And he approached me and he was like, hey, Brett, I got an idea for you. He doesn't really actually talk like that, but sorry, Roger. And he's like, there's a house. I got an idea for you. There's a house. I want to partner up with you, and I want to take you to this house in Baja. And I was like, okay. And he's like, you ever heard of this spot? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard of it. It's pretty good diving. And so we went down there and fell in love with the house and ended up buying the thing. And then the funny thing about it was that none of this stuff would have went in like perfect order if it wasn't for this pandemic. And it was almost like for my house, it was like, hey, here's an idea to get your priorities straight again. Not necessarily buying a house in Baja, but your priority in the sense that spend time with your family and do something for your family so that your family can be more included in all your extracurricular activities. Yeah. So
tell me the dream of this house, because I've seen the video. And I think it's baller. Your wife is in love with it, which blows my mind. That the wifey would just let you buy a Baja house, which is awesome. So congrats to Amy. But what's the vision? What's the dream?
Well, first, so I've had a lot of people like, no way, and all this stuff. And my message to them is very simple. Guys, it's taken me I'm 42 years old. I've been dreaming about stuff like this since I was, I don't know, in my teens, right? You'd have friends that go fly and surf places and all that. And I wanted that so bad. And it took me about 20 years before I ended up linking up with the right group of people, and it just kind of fell in my lap. And so the message there is just patient. It'll happen. You just gotta have to be patient and save your money or do whatever you can. And I was very unique. I was very blessed to have that opportunity financially, and just to have this thing land in my lap. So the dream for the house was originally when Roger approached me, because he had done a lot of surf trips to Baja, and he had done over 100 of them through his Ocean Experience surf shop, where he's teaching kids surfing and just taking other kids down to Baja for an introductory, hey, this is Baja. And he wanted to do something like that through diving. And the reason why he kind of got into diving was he couldn't surf anymore. He can't surf anymore. His hips jacked up. He's getting older, and he's like, but I love just being in the water. And he's like, Brett, I need a guru. And I was like, a guru? He's like, I need you. And I was like, oh, okay. For what? And he's like, well, I'm thinking about maybe doing spearfishing trips, but more important, spearfishing trips, but really just an excuse to have a house in Baja, and also have 5-star, ish, Mexico 5-star. Let's just house where families can come, or guys that are serious. Either one, families can come. and stay there and enjoy it on the beach. Like when my wife loved it, I was like, okay, perfect. And then also like guys from the OC Spearos or guys from San Diego Freedivers want to go down there and stay there and have a home base to crash at and dive from, they can come down there. And then there's the other thing where like if guys want to actually do the full on guide trip charter, maybe people from out of state that had never been familiar with the area or anything like that, then that would be available as well. But it sounds kind of corny, I guess, but as much of a house as it for my families and the guys that are involved, Roger and Mike, the pilot, it's kind of a house for anybody that wants it, that and we had talked about this before where if we could just have a home base, dude, and then we could just bounce. And literally that's kind of what I envision the house to be. And I'm really excited to share, I kind of look at it as a way to give back, honestly, to the community. Like, obviously, yes, we're charging money for the house to rent. Okay, great. But more importantly, I'm going to customize this as much as possible so that it's for guys with families that spearfish, and make it available for anything. And then if anybody has any suggestions too, like hit me up, something you like, something you didn't like, because I want it to be, as much of your house or their house as it is mine. So that's
have you thought about how do you give back to the actual like Gonzaga Bay community? Like, is it just through the, hiring of a couple pongaderos, or do you have any kind of like plans to help, rejuvenate a little bit of the area down there as well for the locals?
So that's a good question. So it's interesting because people are probably like, dude, you're going to fucking blow up the spot.
That's exactly what I hear in my, what I'm imagining people are saying.
Yeah, for sure. No. And yeah, first of all, I totally understand your concern. And so to address that, this is what, by saying it's a spot for guys to go down and stay there and dive, it's as much theirs as it is mine. Yes. So the guys that know, and the guys that are going to go are going to go regardless. So that's why this home exists. As far as like bringing like tons of people down and raping and pillaging the spots. Yeah, no, that's not the plan. Look, I mean, I bought the house with my own money. I'm good. Like, I don't, I just want it to be a good hookup for all the boys and girls or, whatever, everybody that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, a place where we just go here. Not necessarily. There's a lot of other spots around there. And if anybody's been there, it's hit or miss as far as the visibility. So it's not for, you just never know, right? It's like any spot, you never know. But as far as blowing up the spot, no. And the reason why I say that is because there was a guy that I know, Neil, and he was going to do the same thing. And he basically was like looking to cover his cost so he could go on free spearfishing trips, which I totally understand. And I said the same thing to him. I said, hey, just be careful, man. Like, don't, saturate the place with people and dive the same spot and all that stuff. So one way to do that is, for me, is to have some pretty concrete, like, etiquette rules, I guess you could say. Number one, like, I don't want to go down there and shoot, all these fish that, like, we go down to Baja, we go grocery shopping, and then we come back. And the reason why we shot a lot of fish. And part of the reason why we did that was because, like, I'd only go down there twice a year. And you can only get, like, that's the closest spot for us to get grouper. And I happen to love grouper. But this situation allows me to go down there whenever I want. It's not that far down. And so rather than blow up the spot, bringing people down there and say, yeah, there you go, boys, just shoot up everything. Like, I feel like it's probably a good idea to have some basic etiquette rules, because it's special. Don't overfish spots. And, don't look, I have a full-time job. I'm not gonna be bringing down people, over and over and over again. It's a great place for introductory spearfishing. It's a great place for experts that want to dive a little deeper. But the biggest thing is the way, I think, more importantly, the message that you send and the way you represent that community through your spearfishing service or whatever the hell you want to call it. Just be real selective, number one. And then number two, yes, I have a boat. No, I'm not bringing it down, because I think it's important. And I can't speak for the other partners as well. I mean, I think we all on the same page, but I know Mike has a boat and he was talking about bringing it down. But like for our services, I prefer to hire local guys and kind of help them out and give back to the community. That way, it's a pretty small community down there. It's not big at all. It's probably going to grow because of the road that's down there now. But yeah, hearts and minds, right? Like go down there, hire the guys, tip them well, treat them well, and put some etiquette rules in the house, like as far as shooting things, right? Like, yeah, you don't need to shoot 15 undersized like cabria. Like, not gonna happen, dude. Like, not cool. But if you want to you've never shot one before, okay, then go for it. There you go. Cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the big thing that I learned, the first couple of times going down there is there wasn't really a good education etiquette protocol. You kind of just go and then you get the weird looks of whatever you shot from the Pongadero when you give it to them, or when they're filleting it and you're just like, oh, I didn't realize you don't like it when I do that. So I think having a little bit of education for the newer guys up front kind of will have compounding effects for them down the road. You can have pictures, or you can have we have so much content nowadays where we can have like, hey guys, here's the top 5 fish that you're likely going to do. And here's like a little introductory video. So like shoot the Capria grouper that are at least, 8 pounds, and they're going to be about this size. So if you see a small one, just say hi to it and just let it go.
Well, right. And the ways to hunt them and kind of educate people. Stuff. But more importantly, like, if you got guys from like the OC Spearos coming down, like Brad calls, hey, can I get the house? Sure, it's open. Okay, those guys would be going to come down regardless,
Yeah.
So that's fine. Am I going to be trying to make money bringing just absolute heaps of people down there? No, no. Basically, for kids, be a good introduction to that way. But yeah, that's pretty much the idea, because keep in mind, I like to spearfish there too. So why would I be stupid and, slit my own throat, so to speak? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, dude, congrats, man. Didn't you also get a new boat this year too?
Yeah. So this year was such a dude. So this year, all right.
You need more pandemic years, my God.
Oh, it was pretty wild, man. It was pretty wild. Like they sold the boat. Like, so actually last season, at the end, so I think it was springtime, they called, because some of the guys that own the boat, they wanted to get rid of it and they sold it. And I was like, why? I was bitching to my wife. I was all upset. I was like, why the beep would you sell your boat before tuna season? And that makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, because that's when people want to buy boats, it makes total sense. For me, I'm like, this is insane. Like, we're supposed to be out getting tuna. And then I fell into a deep depression for a couple hours. And then my other buddy called me and he was like, hey, look, if I buy a boat, you want to go on a boat with me? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so he found this boat up in Washington, ended up finding a way to get down here during the pandemic. Got the boat. It's like twin outboards, 24 feet. And lo and behold, the tuna were 80 miles offshore this year. So it was like, we have a boat that we can go out and do that and spend hundreds of dollars in gas to come home empty handed. So we did that only twice. But yeah, I got a boat. It's nice. I realized, having worked on boats my whole life and I saved my whole life, but my whole adult life pretty much. I realized the whole thing with the boat, smaller is better sometimes, like for sure. And I kind of, when we put 2 outboards on the back of the motor, I was like, it's twice the maintenance cost, twice the fuel. And it was like to a T, obviously. Then our last boat basically is twice the maintenance, twice, so it's a great boat. It's just when you're trying to launch that thing by yourself, at 4 a.m, it's kind of tough. So I miss my 16-foot aluminum 30 horse that I started with at times, to go out to the kelp, right? You're doing this whole thing to go out to a kelp. It's like half a mile off the coast.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, what are some big things that John had this year? What happened with you? Well, let's get into the white sea bass. So let's say now it's March, it's springtime.
Yeah.
And I think you and I both had like a pack. I was like, look, I haven't hunted white sea bass in like 5 years. Let's just end this shit right now and let's go shoot one. And then
but back in spring, you were the only one who was seeing them, and at least you took 2 shots.
Yeah.
I didn't see mine until I think it was like July, and I took one. And this is where I'm sad, because at that time I'm pretty new to the white sea bass game, and I went to Catalina with Brad, and I put a spear through one, and it was just shy of legal. And I think that's the worst thing as a Spearo, is there's no mulligans. Like, I saw it was with another one sleeping. I took the biggest one, and it was like an inch or so just shy of legal, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? This is the worst feeling ever, where you're just like, I can't really take it on board the boat. Do I just sashimi it up in the water? I don't want to waste you. You know what I mean? So it's like that, but it was nice to kind of actually get one. That one actually also almost killed me. And I did some dumb stuff. So that was kind of nice to get that refresher, because it was like the first dive, it was like within 5 minutes of getting off the boat, the water was perfectly clear. I was diving with guys that I don't normally dive with, so we didn't have our proper etiquette just yet. It's like some of the guys are kind of just getting their gear on and kind of veering off to the side, and I saw the fish and went down, shot it, had the reel. It wrapped around the kelp, but it was like a pretty deep spot. So it was wrapped up around probably 35 feet, and I was like, I mean, it's not that deep per se, but when it was wrapped up, to dive down there to try and cut it out of the kelp was a little annoying, because he then wrapped around me with the reel line around the kelp.
Yeah, that's called the spiral of death when they do that.
And I was like, oh, snaps. And what annoys me is, like, no matter how much you visualize it and kind of tell yourself what to do and prep, I should have right there just cut the Dyneema and just break free. It's like, hey, it's not worth the fish, but I didn't. And I was like kind of panicking. And, I started cutting some kelp. It kind of broke a little bit, but there was a time where I was like, I'm moving up towards the surface, and I'm about 4 or 5 feet from the surface, and I'm kind of feeling like I'm struggling. And I was like, do I just kick harder? Like, what do I do? Or am I just going to be that guy who just like blacks out like right below the surface like an idiot, and your dive buddy is way over there? Because I kind of broke off, and I'm like, wow, all this like dive safety, I'm pretty stupid. What am I doing here? And luckily I just kicked really hard, and I broke some kelp, and I got to the surface. But when I got to the surface, it was one of those like laughing of, oh my God, that was a close one. And that was probably one of the closer like, oh shit moments for me.
Was it a little bit like, John, you're a dumbass?
Yeah, pretty much. 100%.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, I did this. I was like, I did this very wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, everything I was told to do, I've kind of like studied or whatever. I did it wrong. And I was like, man, this is weird when the moment calls. That's so different than, like all the stuff that you tell yourself everything's going to be fine. And just like listening to other stories like this year, because, we lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
For various reasons.
Yeah. And I wanted to get into that in just a second. because I feel like something that needs to be talked about too, because it's pretty shitty. Which is a good story. I think your story is a good segue into that, but I want to get through your story first for sure.
Yeah. But what I was trying to say is like, that was the kicker that got me over the hump to do a freediving class. Cause I got my freediving FII level 1 this year. And I was like, I really need some safety. I need to, not just watch some stuff online. I need to like go through the motions with some, like a trained professional, and have them tell me what's wrong with me. And that was one of the big things that I'm proud that I was able to do this year. I did it with Jeremy Calkins here, and did it in the pool at Petro's house, the guy who owns Spear America. And then that's the first day. And then the next day we go to Catalina and do the deep dive. And that was, if you haven't taken a free diving class, I would highly recommend it. Like just those little things that, like, I was like, wow, I was really doing a lot of this wrong, just bending at the hip and just kind of like forcing my way down, and, just wasting so much energy where I didn't have the right entry, like all these little things that add up. Now it's like, I feel very comfortable in my dive, and I'm a little bit more cognizant of who I dive with. I think that's a big one too, is like, I now have a set kind of group of people that I'm consistently diving with, people who, really respect the buddy system out here, and we kind of watch each other. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up a couple of good points there. And thank you for sharing that, to shooting an undersized fish. That happens so much when, with some, with beginners, and then even intermediates, especially, like, I think it happens a lot when you're starting on a new species of fish, like, and you think, oh, there it is. Right. And you kind of use that overrides everything, and you don't take a step back, and you're like, well, first, white sea bass, it's bigger minimum size than most of them. And then, but so people ask me sometimes, like, hey, how do you know? Right. And the truth is, you don't really know. It's time of adjusting your eye to what you understand as size underwater, right, for that particular fish. And I always say it's like the oh shit factor. So if you're looking for something, anytime, say you're looking for calico bass that day, and so you're looking for calico bass, and when you see a calico bass that you're like, oh shit, like, that's the one you want to shoot, and you usually be good with that. Now if you're brand new and you say oh shit on the first one and tag it, and it's 6 inches, then that's a problem. But yeah. So yeah, what do you do with that? People always ask me. I was like, well, like you said, you can't bring it on the boat, and it feels. And the reason why I say can't bring it on the boat, because I don't really want to pay the fine and have to deal with all that crap legally. The problem is that it just feels like such a waste. So, as one of my friends would always say, nothing goes to waste in the ocean. So you can chum it and use it to try to bring other fish in. But I mean, nothing goes to waste in the ocean. So that's good. But however, that doesn't mean go out and just shoot everything, but, right. Sustainability, that whole bit. But then the other piece that you brought up was diving, the buddy system, and everything is hindsight. And I guarantee, like, there's so many times in my life, and I think in everyone's life, where you have that near-death experience, and you kind of take a step back. You're like, oh, that was really wasteful or really stupid. And you feel like a dumbass, but fortunately that's how we learn, sometimes through failure, like most of the time. And then it pushed you to do better things. So you're one of the fortunate ones to learn, not black out and die, and then learn buddy system and all that stuff like that. So
I think one of the big things that really was the slap in the face is that I realized I was alive, and I'm thankful. And then I measured it, and I was like, oh, I almost died for an undersized fish. God, that's even more stupid.
Could you imagine?
The guy who tagged his first undersized white sea bass killed himself. But this brings up another point, though. I don't think I would have really gone after sea bass as hard as I did this year if there wasn't a little competition between us. Like
Yeah.
to me, because I'm a competitive guy, and I think this is a thing that most Spearos are. Maybe no, like, but I am. Like, I'm just kind of just like relaying myself. That ego, like, oh, I can't wait to get that big fish this year, I think gets people in trouble. Or at least it got me in trouble. So, you know, I after that, I'm like, I'm doing this for like food and like a bond with some bros. I don't need the biggest fish. I need to come home. Like that was the thing for me. And I was like, God, I was kind of dumb. So that was just like the big moment for me. I was like, oh, this year I need to really readjust this attitude because I'm not going to make it that many years.
No, that's a really good point, man. Likewise. Yeah, it was like, I think I was going out, then you were texting me, and I just love it was actually kind of cooler because you were in a different part of Southern California. You're up in LA. So, and then you're hitting me up and I'm hitting you, giving you updates every time. You're like, dude, I shot one today. It was undersized. And I was like, I remember just reading you shot one today. And I was like, fuck, he beat me. And then you're like, it's undersized. I was like, okay, so we're still in, we're still good. And then so much fun, man. But yeah, I could totally understand what you're saying. Like, and you know how it is. And I think it gets like that for everybody with social media and like, oh, dude, so-and-so got a 200-pound, bluefin. I want to go and shoot a, 220 or something. And that with people you don't even know,
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And like for us, it was just a blast because I think we're pretty transparent with each other about and then the couple times you remember then when we would dive together, it was like ready, set, go. Like I better get in the water for John because he's gonna see us like sea bass and shoot it. So classic, dude. That was a lot of fun. And I actually thought about that this week. I was like, dude, it's almost white sea bass season. I can't wait to do it again.
Oh, I can't wait to get back in it. I'm really itching because that one that got away, and that's the one other thing that I really kind of try to pride myself on is not shooting a fish that tears off. I don't know. For me, my little metric, and this is, I don't really hear anybody talk about it, is like shots to keep ratio. Like I think I have 2 days, one in Baja and one that was relatively recent, where like I took only the shots that I wanted to take and they all came with me. You know what I mean? Like it was like 100% ratio of I took 3 shots and I took 3 big fish. And I'm like, that's what I like versus 10 shots, you missed them or you ripped off and then you came home. I don't know. For me, that's like my little metric. But what the one that ripped off that really bugs me is like, I had the oh shit moment for the white sea bass like this year. Like I saw one that was, I would say had to be like 50 pounds. Like it came about 10 feet, a little bit down from me when I was just on the surface kind of cruising. But I mean, that head was ginormous. And I took a hip shot because I didn't want to spook it because it didn't see me. And I shot just about like an inch above the spine. And I had a flopper, which, I'm just poor and don't have a have a slip tip. But that one took off, wrapped around the kelp a couple times and then broke off. But just seeing that thing that looked like almost a seal, I was devastated, man. I was like, that was it. Like finally saw the big one, finally took a shot on it and took a bad shot. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. So it's funny. Well, the flopper thing, I heard a good theory about that as far as with white sea bass too. If you have a bad shot, the likelihood it's going to tear out, regardless if you have a slip tip or a flopper, is much higher, right? But the good thing with a flopper is, and I've seen this on multiple fish, when you shoot it, and I think Bill McIntyre was talking about this, when you shoot it, that shaft goes in, even if you spine it or puts enough pressure where it stones it. And then the minute that shaft comes out, that fish just wakes up. And so that's the beauty of a flopper, is that fish never wakes up. But I've seen it with a slip tip. As soon as you pull it out and engage the flopper, engage the slip tip, that thing just wakes up and goes crazy. And now you've got this, 50-pound fish or whatever it is going crazy, rather than just have it stone and bring it in. Yeah, it's well, you talked about seal, and it's funny because that was the first thing that popped into my mind when, like I said, I hadn't hunted in years for white sea bass just because of unique circumstances. But I remember looking over my shoulder and doing a double take in the Merc and like, is that a harbor seal? And he was probably, and I feel like too, when you see fish like that, everybody has the same story. You miss or you don't shoot as because you always do stuff different than you would any other fish because it's so important to you and you try to be extra cautious and you end up blowing every fucking shot on your dream fish, which is the story of my life this summer. Or but yeah, it's just funny because you mentioned that. I was like, yes, seal. Looks like a giant ass seal, 60-pound white sea bass. And you said head. And it was like, yeah, I remember when the one came at me right up the kelp stock just to look at me. And I remember seeing this thing's head and I was like, huh? That's like the size of mine. And then he just took off and I took like a Hail Mary shot on him or something. But yeah, the dreaded white sea bass. And it was weird because this summer, like, oh, they're so elusive. Now I ran into them pretty regularly. I mean, I did in the springtime, but the thing was, it was like either it was more of a function of like really shitty conditions. You're at the surface and there's swell, and or yeah, I just completely blow the shot. I mean, I don't even know how the hell I missed a 60-pound fish. Or yeah, I was being like super careful. I had really, so here's a good tip too, is like I had my long wooden gun and shitty viz. And so it was like everything had to be a hip shot. By the time you extended it, you couldn't see the end of it. And then the fish is gone. You're worried about spooking it. So then I made some modifications to my shorter gun. And, when it's long, I mean, I've hunted for years with a 60-inch massive, you've seen it, log like giant white sea bass gun. And I could not miss with that gun. Well, then it was like, and I don't know if I was just fortunate or whatever, but when the viz got really shitty, I think one of the times I remember, trying to extend the gun and the thing just took off right to get the gun in front of my face because it's pretty powerful. And I didn't want to get blasted in the mouth like I did one time at 50 feet times trying to film. But yeah, the white sea bass, dude. Oh, well, you know what? This is the fact we're sitting here joking around and laughing about it and all the images of everything we dove just replay in your mind, like right now, as you talk about it, is the whole reason why I dive for fun. I'm not trying to eat. If I want to eat, I go to the supermarket, get food. That's just part of the journey, which kind of leads me to like, when hunting white sea bass is cool for me because you just go for that one fish. And going back to being selective. When I first started hunting, that was pretty much exclusively, other than like pole spear and small, like very regular, but I really jumped into the white sea bass thing like 20 something years ago. And so my buddy's like, yeah, just look, you do not pull the trigger, you'll spook them. So that's all I did. So I learned, it was really funny. I had developed the habit over the years of just going for one fish. Even if I was going for a calico, I'm looking for that one fish, one big fish. And it was funny because I didn't realize it till I started diving with a lot of other people, because for years I just dove by myself, which is not smart in the kelp, and diving with younger guys. And I realized, oh no, they're like trying to fill up stringers full of fish. And I was like, man, I must suck because I don't really do that, like I don't have that many pictures to post, or just because I don't target, a lot of fish like that. I just kind of looked at that one fish, and then I don't want to deal with filleting all these damn fish at the end of the day. I mean, it's different when we're in Mexico. I guess, like I said, we're going shopping, and then, hey, Pongalero, do you want to make an extra $20 here, fillet this,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But like we said, diving for sea bass is really dangerous because they tend to wrap up, especially having a reel. Flow line's nice for sure, but they tend to wrap up, and then, and then they go down to cut them, and you cut the bottom of the stock of kelp. Do not cut. And as soon as you grab that fish, it's going to go crazy, and the only way it can go is in a circle. And then it spirals. And I remember years ago, there was a diver in La Jolla that got wrapped up, and the sheriff had to go find him, sheriff dive team, and found him, and he was wrapped up just like that. But we lost some guys this year. So leading into that, do you want to give a little recap on that? Because it sucks, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't personally know anybody who passed, and I think that kind of separates me because I mean, there was Ryan Huff. He passed away, lobster opener last year, right?
Right.
And then, but I never knew him. He was still part of the OC Spearos, but he touched a lot of people's lives. And, you know, I got to learn about him through his wife and Brad, when we helped them kind of push this memorial scholarship, which I think is huge. If you guys are looking to get free dive certified and you can't afford it financially or need some assistance, I think what Diane and Brad are putting together is pretty awesome. They'll help, you know, just have to apply, but they'll help get that. The goal is to get everybody certified, so you just know your safety. So he passed. Then recently, Devin passed, and I didn't know him, but I know he was super big in the community. Really was from the stories I've heard, that, and I think that one was just like a fluke. I don't know all the details, but I know also a lot of guys in Hawaii, like younger guys. Like there was just, I know because I follow Brian, Uncle Know You How, and Al, and some of the guys over on Kauai. And, you know, it almost felt like every couple of weeks there was some diver missing who was diving alone out there on the islands. So I don't know. It just felt like 2020, there was a significant number of people that were lost. And then there's other people who were just legends who just died of old age, like Jay Rife. I mean, there's just a lot of people that really were in the community, and it kind of hit everybody hard.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It was hearing, you know, Brian and Al talk about, I guess they lost 1 month, they lost a couple of divers, and it's just, you would just see it over and over again. And I'm like you, I didn't really know anybody that passed away. But it seemed like every year the people that are passing away are getting closer and closer to your network of friends. Like you knew someone, you know, you heard about someone dying, and then it's, oh, so and so's friend died, and then it's, hey, a friend of so and so, then it's a friend. And I just, it's scary because the majority of the deaths are avoidable. And I don't know what happened with, was it Devin, right? Was it Devin? Yeah, I don't know what happened with him. And I heard someone, Uncle Know How, you know, Brian, he said, he talked to one of the guys in Hawaii, and he said they think it was a brain aneurysm, maybe. But I don't know if that's been proven or what. And I don't want to like say something that I'm not sure about, but I guess that's what I heard. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I know he was a badass diver. I mean, he had that picture with that monster grouper.
The golden one?
No, not the golden one. We'll get into that in a second. I told my wife about the golden thing. I was like, yeah, no. He had just 100-pound plus, just a fucking toad of a grouper that he and Josh, I think, were diving down there. Yard Sell Josh, not Josh, but Yard Sell Josh, whatever his tag, was diving down there. And they, you know, so the bottom line was very experienced guys. They were all together. They went to go do that trip. And that was the weirdest thing, because I remember all of us, like, I've talked to some of the guys on, message them back and forth and stuff, but I don't know them personally. And it seemed like they were all stoked to go do this dive trip. And then to hear that, it was kind of like, these are all very competent divers. What the hell happened? That was such a bizarre thing. But yeah, I guess that just drives the point home. You know, the more you can scream to people, look, you don't have to take a freediving course, but if you just watch your buddy, like the last podcast I did with Ted Hardy, we talked about you and the video you had when Matt came up, passed out, and you were right there. Yeah. And it was like, you know, a freediving course, but you know, humans need air. And if he passes out, like, pick him up. You know, he's not going to die.
Well, I think what I told Ted back when that happened, because I mean, I was a relatively new diver. I was probably a little bit over my head diving rigs and stuff out here. And his course really helped just the signs to be aware of it. Because like when I first got into it, shallow water blackout really wasn't top of mind. Like, and I'm just like looking back and replaying the last couple of years of spearfishing. You know, you get into spearfishing to shoot some fish because you saw it from some other dude, but you didn't get the whole like lecture of all this stuff, like all these like lessons learned over time. Or, you know, I didn't have a mentor. Like I saw a dude who taught my patty course a while ago and was like, here's a picture of a 70-pound white sea bass that I shot after diving for a couple of years. And I'm like, oh, that's legit. I want to get in. But then it's like, you know, there's multiple ways to get into the sport, but I just kind of jumped in like a noob and just kind of started doing it. But I wish, and I'm thankful that, you know, I stumbled upon Ted's little free safety course, because in there was like, here's the signs of what your friend might look like with a shallow water blackout. And then there it is. You know, when you see it, you're like, oh. But, you know, if you didn't take anything, like I would just say at least watch some videos of a shallow water blackout so you see the patterns. That's all you're looking for, is the pattern. But then I would still recommend taking the full class just to get it like.
Yeah, and the freediversafety.com, Ted's website that he started, it's all free. I mean, there's obviously for more advanced people, there's courses, online courses and things like that and programs, but it's all free. Like, and having talked to Ted for the past few weeks, because I'm doing that 28-day freediving course, transformation, but that guy practices what he preaches, and then it's not about making money. He puts that stuff up there for free, and he really just wants to save people's lives. And it's funny because you think about shallow water blackout and you think of like experienced guys pushing themselves, and it's not that at all. You know, happens anytime, anybody. More importantly, I would think mostly it's newer or naive divers, maybe, that just don't think about it. Yeah, just really shitty to put, I think about, and now that I'm getting older, I get softer, I guess. And I think about the impact on kids, now that I have my own kids, and the loved ones left behind. And it was like, dude, all this could have been avoided for a fucking fish. It almost makes you angry. And sometimes, like, not at the person, but just how preventable it is. It was like when we went overseas one time. It was a perfect little story. We went overseas one time, and I swear I almost got killed in a car accident. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm here doing all this shit, and the way I'm going to die is in a car accident overseas? Like, come on, dude. I would be pissed off if that happened, to like, oh, did he die honorably? And no, he got in a car accident. Like, that's absurd. Yeah. And
I think a big thing that I'm learning lately is really the message where, like, a lot of the old guys would be like, patience, man, just patience. Some of them are like, you should be adding 10 feet to your dive every year. Whereas now, it's like you can go from never snorkeling to 66 feet in a weekend, and then you think you're the shit. And in reality, that's what gets you in trouble, because you don't have the years of experience. Like, you're chasing certain things, and then you get into these weird, oh no, and then you don't know what to do with yourself. So I've been kind of taking my foot off the gas pedal a lot more lately, because I'm like, every year that I'm in this, A, I get more comfortable. B, it's way more enjoyable, and I'm not going down to, Mexico or to the islands to try and hit 100 feet, within my first couple of years of spearfishing, just to say I can. And then, getting outside my comfort zone. I'm like, oh, I want to do this for when my kids are doing this. So I'm just going to take my time. What does it matter? I'll shoot enough fish over the next, 50 years. If Bill McIntyre has anything to say, he's 84. I'm like, there's a lot of fish between 33 and 84. It's like, what am I in a rush for?
A lot of opportunities. I guess that's the whole difference, where I don't look at spearfishing as a sport. It's, it's just a lifestyle or the thing that you do. It's just part of who you are. And the same with surfing. Like, yeah, if I was getting paid, great, that's different. Nobody's getting paid in spearfishing. Like,
no.
So, and I'm too old to get into measuring contests, with people. But more importantly, it's about opportunity and just enjoying being in the water. And like you said, it's such a great thing to be able to pass the love on to your kids. And if you're dead, you can't do that. And in the grand scheme of things, 6 months from now, a year from now, nobody's going to remember your big ass white sea bass that you shot, for the most part, except for you and maybe your buddies that were with you. So it really doesn't matter. None of that social media shit matters. I started out. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think you just nailed it. It's what are we doing right now? We're reminiscing about pretty much the fish that we shot together. That's the things that are going to matter the most, not the picture.
And didn't shoot together.
Yeah, or missed.
Yeah.
But that's all. I think we're doing it wrong, right? It's not about the posts on the social. It's about the stories. I think more of us need to talk about the stories or share the stories with people, or share it. I don't know where I'm getting at with this one. I'm just like, it's not the picture. It's the behind the scenes. Well, that's everything.
Remember the story? What was it when we all went out to dive, right? And two of the guys, I think phone booth, Chris stayed on the boat, and Chase stayed on the boat because it's cold. He's from Guam. He's like, yeah, no. And it looks green. Yeah. And so then I think it was you and I and Cody jumped in the water. And we went out, and I remember I was feeling super sick, I guess, from not sleeping. I never get seasick, but apparently, when you don't sleep, what I've realized is that you'll get seasick. And I remember coming back to the boat just so seasick. And I remember getting up on the boat, and I looked at him like, I just saw two, and I shot and missed. And I was sitting there like, I think I got to throw up. And all the guys on the boat were like, well, get back in the water and go get them. And I was like, all right. So I literally just rolled over and rolled back in the water. And it was really cool to have friends like, well, go get it, because they know how much it means to you. And then also it was like playful banter of like rolling my ass, literally like rolling off the swim step into the water, just like, I'm going to puke. And, going out there and seeing another one and blowing it, and just like that back and forth, and what we were talking about, a little competition. And you're like, I haven't seen any. And I was like, I just saw another one. He's like, what the fuck? I was like, I just saw it and I blew it too. And I got out and I'm just like, I think I'm good for today. And it was like a solid day's effort of feeling like crap, and then missing fish and seeing fish. And then you're like, what the hell, dude? Like, where's these fish at? But I just always, and we didn't even get the fish. And I just remember that day. It was so special to me to have your friends like encouraging you and stoked for you. And it was just such a funny story. And then like, I'm just glad to have, all of us be there and be a part of it. And not one fish was brought on the boat that day. So.
At least you didn't blow chunks, man. There was at least 2 or 3 times this year where I blew some serious chunks. And this is like the first time ever. Like, I've been on boats growing up. It's not that big a deal to me, but you nailed it. If you don't get adequate sleep, which I don't usually before a dive, like, I don't know why I can't just like go to bed at 8 like a normal person. Like, now I'm up at 2 or 3 and it's like, all right, we have to be at the boat ramp at 6. And I'm like, God, like, even for this podcast, I couldn't even get a good night's sleep. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be blowing chunks on air. But get some sleep, guys. Sleep is the most important thing. That's what I'm learning, especially as I get older.
Well, yeah, and Cody,
my body doesn't like it.
We went out we went out and was like, oh my God, I saw 4 of them coming out the next day or 2 days later or something. And Cody did the same thing. He hadn't slept, and he doesn't get seasick. Like, we've been on numerous boats together, and he was laying, he goes, dude, I feel sick. And then we kind of put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, it's gotta be not sleeping well the night before, but anyway, so that's spring of this year. We haven't gotten very far. So just to kind of wrap, summer started, and it was like the year of yellowtail. Tuna were so far off. We went out there. I think we were diving, saw them at depth. By the time we got out there, it was already, we had like an hour to fish for them, to hunt them. And Yeah, and then once you found them, if you could find them, there was definitely days where if you could find them and then dive down, you could get them. And we went out, we were like 5 miles off one day. My buddy was 5 miles away from us and got, 3. And that's always just humbling and frustrating to come back in. Yeah, you get any? No, we got 3. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, you just burned $300 in gas just to go look at blue water, because they were all at depth. And then the smaller grade ones were on the surface. But I mean, yeah, I remember just diving offshore. It was like yellowtail and good sized yellowtail for kelp patties, like pretty good sized yellowtail. On the way back in, it was like the consolation prize. Remember, like Matt and I and you, like we all jumped in, just boom, boom, boom. And I think that I saw that vision of that one patty that we jumped in on the way out with Matt, and it was just a wall of yellowtail. And then watching you go down and shoot him, and it was just cool to watch that. Yeah.
That was my favorite boat day of the year, to be honest. It reminded me of Baja. Like, for whatever reason, we let some random patty in the middle of nowhere. What was it, like an hour off the coast or whatever?
Yeah.
And just, you're right. The wall just reminded me of Tortugas, where you're just like, oh, you can't miss. You can't miss. It's a blanket of yellowtail.
Yeah. And it was funny because, seeing the wall of yellowtail, and then you always see the one, there he is.
Just peeks out in the back, just like, whoop. And it's like, yeah, there you are. Gotcha.
Yeah. That was a good day. Yeah, I was trying to think. Everything shut down. I remember like seeing stories and seeing people making the run to Baja and loading up on all these fish. And I was like, I thought Baja was closed. And then there's like backroom discussions on certain things and how and all that stuff. And ended up, we canceled the one trip to Tortugas. And then we went to another place because I guess the fishing co-op shut down in that area. And we met at my house, and then we went for it and not even sure if we were going to get turned around. And everybody was telling me, don't go. And
we almost did get turned around. I didn't know that there was a 2-person max limit per car. The popo was interesting. I was like, oh, flashbacks, PTSD of college where I got robbed by the cops in Mexico and TJ. I'm like, oh no, here we go again. But that was a great trip. I think overall that was a much needed trip. I don't know. We probably got a lot of flack because people were like, you're spreading the virus.
Yeah,
but we're careful. I mean, there's not that many people down there, and they were happy to have us down there because their economy was zero. So at least we were going to spend some money, and we're going to still wear our mask down there.
Yeah, that was the point. Is before we went down there, I remember emailing them or FaceTime or whatever, Facebook. They're like, hey, are you guys okay with this? None of us were sick, but I didn't want to come across as being disrespectful or being the white plague round 2 Christopher Columbus days. So, and they were like, no, we're hurting. We need, money. And so, yeah, we went down there and met some cool people and slayed it. It was a lot of fun. Diving in new spots is always fun. And working new techniques and all that stuff. And we had a great group of guys, the usual crew, I guess. And it was their first time to Baja, a couple of guys. And then we got shook down right at the border, which I thought was beautiful because it was only $50 and it was just all part of it.
$50 because you made it $50. It was $15.
Right. Oh, I wanted to help out.
Brett pulls out a wad of cash. The guy's like, ooh, hold that thought. I'm going to go back and make this bigger.
Yeah, that was some, that was like day one shit. I had multiple stashes of cash. It just, that happened to be the easiest one was the fat stash. Yeah. 50. No, you said 15. No. 50. I'm like, 50, fuck it. Like, was it divided by 4? Okay, cool. Here you go. So they got to pay for the experience of getting shook down to Mexico. The whole Mexican experience, which was a good time. So anyways, I just loved as he walked away, he just puts it in his pocket, like just not.
Safekeeping.
Sure, bro. I just wish he would pull us over and be like, hey, you got to give me $50, man. All right, cool. I appreciate your honesty. Let's go. But yeah, and then we went down there. Bay of LA is a beautiful place. Such diversity too. So many places to dive there. God, that place is just like, what a good time.
I can't believe how hot the water was.
Yeah.
That was by far the hottest water I've ever dove in. It felt like a jacuzzi.
85.
Like it was almost uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Especially in the wetsuit. I was like, oof, I need to start wearing just like a Lycra.
I just dove in my shorts too. I remember that. I was like, oh, I remember we went offshore a little bit and the water was 77 and I was like, oh, I'm going to be cold. And, but yeah, it was a nice contrast. It was still refreshing though, compared to the air, which was 104 or something like that. And then, but it was actually really nice, man. It was just all the grouper, I think, were deeper, and yellowtail were deeper for sure. But yeah, what a fun trip just to get away from chasing sea bass and missing them and everything.
Yeah, Cody got that monster Cabera, right?
Yeah.
And then I got my personal best Cabria, which isn't that crazy. The yellowtail fishing for that 45 minutes where we just pretty much had 20, 25 pound, 30 pound yellowtail just one after the other was probably the highlight in my eyes. I just thought that was crazy. You know, we have our Pongadero calling us wussies and weak ass men as we're groaning, trying to get these fish from 150, 200 feet down on this pinnacle up and then drop another mackerel down. Go. It's like, you weakling. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because I don't fish hardly at all anymore. And oh my God, dude, my arms are so sore. You're like, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, okay. Why does my bicep feel like I just did a million curls? God, that was fun though. I think you and I think Chase was just flipping out. Just, you know, because he's like, I've never caught a yellowtail before. I was like, well.
Oh, he was slaying, man. He caught like 3 before I even caught my first one. I was pissed. That was probably the most angry I've ever been on a dive trip, because I was like, I have the same gear. I'm doing the exact same bait and I'm not hooking up. And I'm just watching 3 other dudes just like, bam, got one, bam. I'm like, I hate my life right now.
I remember seeing your face and being like, John is legitimately pissed off. And I'm
like, this is like fucking hell for me.
And this is the guy that has the cast in his name. And he's not catching shit right now.
Yeah, well, that's telling, you know. I'm a shit angler anyways.
Well, I always say at work, like, they're like, how do you know? So I don't have to know everything. I just got to know where to find it all. So, yeah. You know, references is key.
On a side note, that reminds me of the casting. Like yesterday, I found out that damn shark I caught back in January would have been a California state record by like 30 pounds. Like, it just blows my mind that I'm so dumb enough not to look at the record.
That's the story. Yeah. Well,
I'm like, man,
good on you, because it's not about the records, but it is.
It is. I was going to say, come on, man.
It is. Well, it was like, I remember somebody posted the same thing, and I was like, I shot a fish bigger than that. I was like, and I showed my wife. I'm like, babe, look at this. Like, I'm not crazy, right? Like, she's like, yeah. I'm like, I had a fucking world record. I was like, oh well. It's just kind of, you know, honestly, the whole motivation for me is not necessarily like validation or anything, but it'd be cool to, like, for my whole thing is for my kids to be like, look back, like, God, show their grandkids, like, oh, dad, he's a world record, you know, whatever. Your grandpa was a world record. Like, my dad's not totally full of shit. He's actually, like, you know,
he's actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing when I actually started paying attention to it, because it was like, do you even really? What do you do when you go offshore, Dad? Or what do you do? I always joke around about, like, coming home, and as a father, you kind of figure stuff out too. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, or what you do. You're just dad, and the kids don't. Nothing you do is like amazing. Like, really, like, I told him, like, I could save the world and be like, okay, cool, Dad, can you pass the mashed potatoes, please? Like, nobody cares, you know. You're just dad, which is cool. It's a way to keep you grounded, I guess. But yeah, because I have friends that have done a lot of stuff, and it's like, you just wonder if their kids know you know. I remember my dad talking about my dad and things like that, and like, wow, my dad was diving for abalone back in the 70s and this and that, and then like his whole Vietnam stuff, and you're like, he doesn't talk about it, but you read journals of stuff, and then you see his, you're like, holy crap, dude, you know. Anyways, we're getting off topic, but
So going to 2020, we're 0 for 0 for any records.
yes.
So I think 2021 we need to put a little bit more effort.
Yes. And so here's the question to everybody. The pole spear records, should we go for the pole spear records? Because you know who we're talking about. All you guys out there with your pole spears, it was like, it's records wide open. Go shoot.
It's hard to call out anybody who's actually just a pure badass.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
Like,
I just
like, yeah, you got the records because you're actually just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But save me one. I just want one. I don't care.
So classic.
I would like one poster record somewhere. I would love at least like one spearfishing one. I think there's a lot of open fishing ones for sure. Like I'm not worried about that. I think I'm looking at what's our little competition for 2021. I guess we should be planning a little bit of goal setting.
Yeah. So
like, do you at least one record for the year, or are you trying to get quantity over quality?
no, I'm trying to get a record. So I have my own personal records I'd like to get. I want to get a triple digit grouper.
Okay.
That's one. But world record wise, yes, I want, let's see. If we're throwing the pole spear in there, white sea bass world record.
Dude, white sea bass on a pole spear in my eyes is like
Gnarly.
The pinnacle of SoCal spearfishing.
Yeah. And you know what I think about that too? Like with the range being how close it is for most these sea bass, and even when they're sleeping, dude, you can get pretty close to them where it's totally doable. But the thing is, it's like, okay, I mean, they're not far off all the records, whatever, but it's like if you see a 70-pound sea bass and you have a pole spear and you blow it, are you going to be wishing you had your pole spear or your regular spear gun? Absolutely. So, you know, do you?
I don't know if I would say that. I think no. I think okay. I think it would suck right now because we both never shot a 70-pounder.
Right.
Like I think the day you get the big one under your belt is the day like the pole spear matters. Because to me it's like, okay, got it. Like I got one that's over 50 pounds. I feel great. Like I'm good. You know, it's like, or you're like a Matt, where Matt has like 50s on the regular, you know, it's like at some point the challenge becomes, let's just switch over to the pole spear. And you don't care so much.
I think that's what happened with the Gaku guys. Like they had shot, I mean, the yellowtail thing, dude, like how many, you know what? Let's go for a yellowtail world record.
We need to go to Cedros.
Yeah. Cause I'll tell you what, I'm tired of shooting yellowtail. It's nice for sashimi and I'll take one, you know, but I like the footage. I like checking the fish out underwater, but I don't really want to deal with a damn yellowtail unless I getting low in the freezer, you know, but it's not something I'm going to go target.
I think yellowtail Baja it ruined it a little bit. Not ruined it, but I think California yellowtail, I think they offer the challenge.
Yes. Because
they're not everywhere. I feel like, I personally feel like it's harder to get them. I know guys get them all the time, but it's like, you have to go search for them, you know? Whereas Baja, it's like, they're just there.
Well,
like you're just diving with them.
And the big spot, I mean, there are spots here where you can go and get them. The problem is that I've noticed you're going to get run over by boats, especially on the weekends. Because everybody knows they're there. And so I prefer not to be in that situation for a yellowtail, I guess. In La Jolla, it's nuts in the weekends. Like I won't go there in the weekends. But like you said, I'll just save it for Baja and I'll shoot one with a pole spear and we'll call it a day. Be a world record holder. No big deal. If it was only that easy. Because you know, I mean, any sizable fish seems to just have, there's a reason why they got that size. And everybody says that. But if you honestly think about it through behavior, something that fish has done has allowed it in its life, and it may be cognizant, it may not, to be larger than the other ones. And a lot of that probably is because it's tends to be weary of things, predators, whatever. So every time you see, you know, one of those big fish, it's like they are just on the edge of the viz or hiding in the back. I mean, that one in Baja I saw that was honestly, I think you saw one, some might have been the same, like 50 pounds, dude. It was fucking massive. I thought it was a shark on the bottom, like looking
Yeah.
down. And I dove down and he was like, ooh, then he started fading off into the viz. And then I hit him and the slip did didn't deploy and I was ready just to lose my.
That still scars me a bit in Tortugas. That I think there was like two that were probably over 50 pounds, and this was after I shot that 35 pounder, so I kind of knew generally the size. But that was the first time I had my gear malfunction, where I had like a knot in my reel, and I saw the spear go, and then it just got hung up like an inch from the fish, and that still scars me. I'm just like,
yeah,
that was it for me. That would have been amazing.
Yeah,
probably would have killed me, but that was amazing.
Well, so here's the plan, right? So let's talk about the plan. We got the house in Baja, and I thought about this morning because I'm a loser, and this is all I think about. And really, my wife's out of town, so I was just sitting there having coffee, thinking about this. Avoiding doing my breath hold training today. So you go down to our house in Baja, and we chill out there. And then literally from there, it's, I don't know how far the drive is, but it's about half. That is doable. Like that would be fun to go there and just take a couple of days hiatus, bounce down there, do your thing, and then come back. That was my big plan of like doing that for like a week or something.
Dude, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
I still like the idea. Once I think the house is polished and everything is the way you want it, and then get your pilot guy.
Yeah.
I just think that would be I want to see a surf dive day.
That's the plan.
Where you fly over, you land in Ensenada, you hit K2 or shipwrecks, and then you fly back or whatever, and then go do like an evening dive or something.
Fuck that. Pardon me. We're going to Natividad or
Natividad.
Yeah, or Seven Sisters. But like literally, they flew over and they checked the surf in a half hour from where we were at because the runway's right at the house. We flew over, checked the surf. It was good. It was like overhead, and then they came back and they're like, "Yeah, the surf's good." And I was like, my mind is just freaking out right now. Like we go back to originally, like I've always wanted this. You're talking I could go dive one day and then go surf anywhere in Baja. You know, it's obviously it costs money, right? Nothing's free, but it's relatively not that expensive with 4 dudes or 3 guys and some surfboards can fit. But I mean, yeah, let's do it. That's a good challenge. Let's try that this year. And we got to score both. I got to score like maybe we can leave super early, surf for 3 hours, fly back, go for an evening dive, slay some grouper, come back. I mean,
they in California, you know, didn't you do the trifecta where you like go surf, you go snowboard, and you like skateboard? Like I remember doing that in high school. Yeah,
I was definitely surf in the morning and then go skiing in the evening or something like that. Big Bear. It's getting harder now. Like this is a while ago for me, but it's getting harder now because it's getting more and more crowded to go up the Big Bear. But we used to do that like junior high. My friends' older brothers or whatever. Like that was the big deal. But yeah,
I retired from snowboarding. I can't justify it anymore. Like when your lift tickets are what, $150 or more, plus it's like it's just crowded. I don't know. I don't find it as fun as it used to be.
I'm 100% with you. I'm over it. I don't want to be around crowds. And I don't want to pay a bunch of money to be bundled up, especially when the surf's firing in the wintertime. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't really want to go to be outdoors and be around everybody else. Not that I don't like people. It's just not that fun. I mean, if the kids want to go, I'll take them. But yeah, there's so many other cool things to do. And now that I get older, I watch my brother do this. He bought like a 3-day lift ticket, very first run of the day. And we're both bigger guys or whatever. My brother's a lot bigger than I am. He fell snowboarding, destroyed his shoulder. and they had paid this whole lift ticket, and I had just paid for like a day because I didn't have any money back then. This is when I was younger. I was like, "Hey, bro, can I get that lift ticket from you? Like, now you're not gonna be." He's like, "Yeah, thanks, man." I was like, "How's the shoulder doing? Okay." But I remember I was boxing back then, and I fell too, and I remember my head just getting racked, and I was like, you know what? What do I like to do, and how is this going to impact on things I like to do? So I don't really do too. I'm not gonna like gun it down a hill on a mountain bike as much. Um, and that came to life when I herniated my disc when I was training jiu-jitsu quite a bit. It was like couldn't surf for a year. I was like, that was terrible, and I was a terrible person for a year. So yeah. So moving on and finishing up, I mean, come
fall and winter. What did we do fall and winter?
Fall and winter. So I went back to Baja in November, checked the place out, went down there with Chase. We flew down there. Met my son down there, my buddy Roger, and Mike and I flew down there and Chase. And then we fished one morning. We literally just went down there to check the house out before we like closed and everything, and fished one morning, and was pretty epic. Like, cause we went down there, shot a bunch of nice grouper and in like 3 hours. And the kids were stoked because it was like wide open yellowtail, and they weren't like big yellowtail because the water, but the kids were just like throwing on these things, like Roger's son, and so they were just elated. And so we came back and Roger, how'd you guys do? Because he's kind of not necessarily new to fishing, just because he gets seasick. So and he looked in the boat and he was like, whoa. I was like, yeah, this is like 3 hours of diving. Like, I'm telling you, like, this place is really special, you know? And so we shot, I don't know, I think I only shot like 3 fish, but Chase shot a few because he knew he was coming back and loves grouper. And then the boys caught some yellowtail. So that was a lot of fun. So that was fall for me. What else? I was teaching. I was really busy with work and fall. So I had a bunch of stuff going on, and then, closed the deal in December. I was going to go down there next week, down to Baja, and get the house in order. But yeah, that was my fall.
Yeah, my fall was changed a lot because I took out this millionaire dude that I've been following for years. His name is Noah Kagan. He got a house on the water in Malibu. He was paying like $26,000 a month for this place with a buddy. And I've been talking to him online for a long time, and he was like, hey man, I'd really love to, go spearfishing. So I took him down, and it was epic, like an epic day, took him out diving for a couple hours. You go back in, there's a sauna that's over the water in Malibu, like with the window. It just was like super bougie. It's like one of those like, oh, this is what people do. I get it now. I like it. But then I was telling Vlad this story. Vlad's one of our mutual friends. And he's like, why am I not doing that? He's like, I don't need a $23,000 a month place, but there are spots like in the area that are on the water legitimately. And like the next like couple weeks later, he's like, yeah, I got a spot on the water. And I'm like, oh. So that changed up all my diving habits, because now it's as easy as like going to a buddy's house. We get, you get changed and you just walk down the stairs and there you are, you're at the ocean. And it's like, there's really great reefs within 5-minute walk from his place, just down the beach. And I'm like, okay. So that kind of switched up everything. So now I like to target, one or two fish, leave, maybe a sheep, but a lot of times my favorite fish now to get locally, if I'm going to eat a fish and share a meal, because that's kind of the thing that I've been liking to do now, is like, I'll take out a buddy or two, we'll go shoot 2 or 3 fish, and then we bring it back and we cook at the guy's house. And sargo is by far my favorite tasting fish out here on the reef. I think they're plentiful. I've seen schools of hundreds, like really close to shore, just there, and they're pretty good size. So that's been like my fall and winter diving. I kind of hit a couple different reefs, and I'm very selective, maybe 1-2 fish max anytime I go. And I've been foraging a lot more. So I've been trying to go for red sea urchin, sometimes purple, but I've been just maybe some scallops here and there. Like that's kind of been fun for me. It's a different kind of diving. You know, the fish treat you different. Like they actually get close to you. Especially I like to chum up the purple sea urchins just because in my dive area, they're just kind of overrunning the place. So I know it's not even making any sizable dent, but I like to just kind of destroy a few. But then it's just crazy if you just wait 2 or 3 minutes, every fish comes out of the woodworks. And I'm like, oh, chumming works. Now I get it.
You just got to chum the right thing, you know?
Exactly.
Big goats come and yeah, that's awesome. I think the thing with the Sargo is that it keeps you, you know, and any of those reef fish in the wintertime, it just keeps you diving so you stay in shape. Your lungs stay right, your mind stays right. That's always fun. And then you can always bring home a couple fish and it gives you an excuse to go back and go get more, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Vlad. He's so great.
Yeah.
So great.
Have you guys surfed since we surfed in Baja?
No. And I'm actually going to call him. I was going to ask you or him if they wanted to come down this weekend and take the boat out. But my daughter had to go to Arizona for a basketball tournament. And then, you know, so I had my other 2 kids. And so I was like, it's not going to work. But then I saw there's just waves for like that. We've had some really great run of swell and it's just going to continue. So I was like, okay, well, there's one day I got a plan just to head up there and maybe bring the kids and just go for a surf with Vlad.
I think that's a huge thing, man. Let me know when you come up because I think there's going to be a swell for the next week, right?
Yeah.
So if you do have time, like
yes.
I'll just shoot up there too and we can have a surf beach bonfire kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Cook some food on the beach.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just enjoying the surf we have right now because, you know, I told my daughter, I was like, you imagine playing basketball and you could only play basketball at a certain time, certain conditions. And then you imagine how crowded the basketball courts would be, you know, cause she got upset with me cause I came running home. She's like my second wife. It's so great. I came home, threw my bag down. I was like, all right, I'll see you guys a little bit. And I just ran out the door and I text my wife, hey, do you mind if I go surfing? But all my stuff was at the house. And she's like, where is he going? I was like, what is this wife number 2? She's like, well, I haven't seen you all day. I was like, oh my God, babe. And I broke it down to her like that. And she's like, right. She's like, okay, well, tomorrow we're going to hang out. And I was like, I guess my daughter wants to hang out with me. So I guess that's a good thing. So yeah, I went for a surf and it was pretty awesome. But yeah, we definitely got to get in the water soon. So got to head up.
Well, I want to be cognizant of your time, man.
Yeah,
I think the only other thing we did, was lobster. I know you've been crushing it. I've got a couple. I haven't really focused it this season.
I haven't either, actually. I would go surf at the point and then on the way in, just hit my spots, you know, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why I haven't really going hard with the lobster. Not like last year, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll just, if I run into him, I run into him. I guess the water's been so cold, and to be perfectly honest with you, like that's a factor. I mean, I froze my ass off jumping in surfing. I bought a new wetsuit because it was just this. Usually the water's in the low 60. We've been fortunate. The last few years, the water's been about 62-ish. This year went back to more normal from what I remember growing up was 58, 57, 59. And it is a not noticeable difference, but yeah, anyways. So yeah, brother.
All right, man.
Yeah.
It was great to catch up. 2020 is behind us. So let's make 2021 way more epic.
Yeah, I think 2021, watch out, hold on your seats because this shit's going to get real. We're going to blow this thing up. Come on.
All right, boss.
All right.
Have a good one.
Bye, later.
See you, dude.
Well, that does it for this episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. That concludes our 2020 recap. I am now looking straight forward towards 2021. I need to catch more fish. As you can hear in the last couple episodes, I'm kind of getting the itch to try my hand at some of these world records. If you have world records, you're probably not going to talk about it anyways, but I'm going to share as much as I can. I love some friendly competition, and it all is just fun for me. If you did find this episode fun, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. I check them all. Let me know how I can keep making this better in 2021. If there's somebody you want me to bring on for an interview, let me know so I can reach out and harass them and see if they would want to come on. Also, let me know if you like these forecast episodes. I'm just trying to be helpful wherever I can, and I think kind of like how we watched TV back in the day where you have the weatherman come on and kind of tell you what your forecast is. I figured that's kind of cool for fishing and spearfishing, just so you don't have to like waste time going through all the different websites and just try to find it. I don't know. If you don't like it, just let me know and I'll change it up. But till next time, guys, stay safe out there. See ya.